in the early 20th century, we had a war rage on between fundamentalists and modernists. And one of these places where there was such a battle took place in the courtrooms um, with the Scopes trial, or as some call, the monkey trial. Bit of background. There was the Butler Act that was passed in 1925 that basically made it illegal to teach evolution. And with respect to that law that passed, there was a teacher, um, a John Scopes, who was a high school teacher who taught that man basically descended from, well, what we would commonly understand now to be the modern evolutionary model. Um, and as a result of that, John Scopes was put on trial for having violated the Butler Act. And then that led to the famous trial that we now know as the Scopes trial. Now, as this, for example, this article here from 1925 shows, one of the first lines here says, the scientists have abandoned the idea that man descended from monkeys. And so already you can sort of see the public misconception about evolution and what evolution taught in the first place. But nonetheless, this was at least some of the ideas behind it. But at this point in time, with Christianity being as strong as it was in the colonies, and lots of the particular leaders being fundamentalist leaders, there was really a pushback against Darwinian evolution. And the Butler Act basically held to a very fundamentalist view of creation as told in the Genesis story. Now, once John Scopes himself was on trial, John Scopes represented the position that Darwinian evolution, that particular evolutionary idea itself, was the proper and true understanding, but he wasn't alone. John Scopes was also surrounded by a whole host of Christians who were not fundamentalists and who argued and who held the belief that you could make Christianity compatible with the, at that time, modern understanding of science. But the Scopes trial, as such, then represented the difference between the sort of fundamentalist readings of Scripture and the sort of modern readings of Scripture that didn't see a necessary conflict between the sciences and the growth and body of knowledge in that respect. Now, when the smoke cleared in the Scope trial, the fundamentalists essentially won because John Scopes was found guilty, but he was forced to pay a $100 fine. Now, in the end, in Tennessee, the case ended up being overturned on essentially what is often described as a technicality. But this is one of the things that sort of ignited the debates in the United States with respect to the teachings of things like biblical creation as opposed to evolution, and something amounting to theistic evolution or just outright Darwinian evolution. But the Scopes trial was pivotal in that respect because it brought about these sorts of conversations. And today we see a shifting tide where now modern evolutionary biology is the mainstream taught, and creationism and biblical creation is on the opposite side.